Some of my viewers have this idea they can predict what my semi-rams are going to be about based on what I say in my fully rams, and it disappoints me to prove them right. I try to live up to the image of the unpredictable devil-may-care bad boy, but for those of you who commented on my Ghost of Yahtzee review saying they assume I'll soon be doing a semi-ram on the subject of cutscene incompetence, congratulations. Here it is, have a fucking biscuit. Cutscene incompetence meaning the infuriating tendency of certain video game player characters to mysteriously lose all the effectiveness they routinely demonstrate in regular gameplay the moment it would be inconvenient for the rigidly linear plot. Ghost of Yahtzee suffers a lot from this. Over and over again does the main character Atsu cross paths with the masked gits upon whom she has sworn revenge, and over again does she miss the opportunity to kill them because cutscene Atsu was in charge, when at all other times gameplay Atsu only needs close range, line of sight and a convenient patch of untended grass to get a guaranteed kill. I mentioned a particularly egregious moment when we're literally above the main villain, undetected, with an assassinate prompt floating over his head, and yet Atsu misses the stab for no clear reason, when in gameplay she's perfectly capable of making standing 10-foot leaps to insta-kill far beefier targets. I'm not stupid. The plot had made it abundantly clear that the story was over when this dude died, and a single press of the contextual assassinate button hardly smacked of a final boss fight. Plus, multiple characters hadn't resolved their arcs yet, but for what it's worth, that did mean the game had a chance to surprise me. Let me kill the twat, then reveal after the fact that he had some kind of justification, have his vengeful family come after us, just as we went after him, and force Atsu to confront her own actions now she's lost the moral high ground. Sadly not. Instead, the game insults my intelligence by trying to get me to think this was going to go like a normal assassination, something I did not believe for a second, and then pulled the rug out, tacitly crowing that it had tricked me with its clever subterfuge. But it hadn't. It had basically pushed me down onto a whoopee cushion that I had easily spotted, and then laughed at me for falling for their prank. Another classic example is that one bit in Far Cry New Dawn, where before you walk into a room to confront the main villains, the villains in question tell you to drop all your guns and handcuff yourself to the ceiling. And instead of letting us say, "That's a big piss off from me, good buddy," the only way to progress is to press the contextual button prompt to do exactly as they say. And of course it ends very poorly for us, because what the fuck would you expect? This sort of thing is frustrating for players because in essence, gameplay is about making appropriate responses to incoming signals, and this is taking away our ability to make the appropriate response. By all means trap the player, ambush the player, but if they see the ambush coming and aren't permitted to prepare or change course, then that breaks the tacit contract of video games that the player can succeed as long as they're skilled or smart enough. Perhaps talking about this in terms of success and failure is confusing because from the game's point of view, the player is succeeding by getting to the next bit of the plot, even if it's presented as the protagonist fucking up. So when you get right down to it, cutscene idiocy is a framing problem. It's kissing cousin to the frustration of winning a boss fight and then the boss defeating the protagonist anyway in the ensuing cutscene. It makes one wonder why we should bother to try, and raises the question of why dying at any point during the fight wouldn't have had the same result. On the other side of the coin is the related issue of cutscene overcompetence, wherein the protagonist demonstrates skill and hardiness that is unavailable to the player in standard gameplay. We might as well just call that Devil May Cry syndrome, because Dante from those games can never get through a new weapon introduction without getting impaled on it at least once, and at all other times carks it pretty easily from all the standard methods. The problem with this kind of thing is that it makes the player feel like the passenger rather than the driver of the train. Why are we stuck with the boring old light attack, heavy attack, dodge, parry, double jump routine when cutscene Dante seems to be having a hell of a lot more fun than us? I wonder if this is what led to the practice of the in-cutscene QuickTime event, where we're given a token button press to keep the exciting action sequence going. But those always make me feel condescended to, like when a fireman lets a small child hold the hose for a second and wear the big red hat. Both cutscene incompetence and cutscene overcompetence are examples of ludonarrative I threw up a little bit in my mouth trying to say that we might group together under the heading of player-protagonist disconnect. But I want to stress that that's not something one should always avoid. In fact, if your protagonist has any characterization at all, their personality will be expressed entirely in the gap between them and the player. A deliberate surgical use of player-protagonist disconnect is a very effective tool in interactive narrative. It's surprising for the player when their character appears to deliberately defy them, and that being the case, it can be leveraged for both comedy and horror. I think I've mentioned before that the Monkey Island games had a recurring gag where we, the player, would choose some kind of bold, potentially antagonistic dialogue line, but Guybrush would overrule us, wimp out and say something neutral to emphasize that he's too much of a coward to follow through on his initial thought. Then there's the gag at the start of Portal 2, where Wheatley is checking to see if we're brain damaged, and the prompt press space to say apple comes up, and of course all it does is make you jump. Player-protagonist disconnect can also be used to make a character more compelling. The example that's leaping to mind for me now is Silent Hill 2. Aha, just kidding. See, I don't have to bring that game up every bloody week. I was actually thinking of Nine Souls. Yeah, didn't see that coming, did ya? In Nine Souls, protagonist Yi spends most of his time dutifully playing the part of the taciturn, determined badass type, usually duly called for by an action revenge fest, but you can tell from the start that there's a lot going on upstairs we don't know about. He's not a young Kratos-style mindless destructor. He's got plans. The defining moment of the game for me is the Gumang boss fight. She's this evil bat lady who's using technology to mind control people with the usual classist justifications, and Yi makes the usual mouth noises, how could you do this, freedom is sacred, etc. But the boss fight ends with Yi fucking hacking Gumang's legs off, leaving her wide-eyed and twitching on the floor. Then, after she makes a stock, oh how could you have defeated my perfection sort of speech, Yi coldly and determinedly walks up and forces her into one of her own slave collars, leaving her alive with no legs in a permanent brain-suppressed hell. And I was like, fuck, I didn't tell you to do that, Yi, you ruthless son of a bitch. But his character became so much more interesting for it, as I'm forced to wonder if he's really in the right here, in a way I wouldn't if I was dealing with a protagonist who just does what they're told and is more or less blandly in favour of doing the right thing. So, what makes that, in my mind, a valid use of player-protagonist disconnect, in contrast to what was going on with Atsu in the Ghost of Yotei example? Well, the obvious difference is that Nine Souls takes control from us so that Yi can have a moment that defines his personality and make him a stronger character, whereas in Ghost of Yotei, control is taken from us so that Atsu can fuck up, like a great big doofus, which doesn't really gel with the rest of her character arc. It reminds me of all those times the floor just randomly collapses under Nathan Drake or Lara Croft for no clear reason, adding who knows how many hours onto the playtime just to get back to where we already were. It never fails to frustrate because it feels like the game's wasting our time, even if it is preordained by the critical path. So, would Atsu's big fuck-up have been improved if it were because of a conscious decision she was making, something that might add to her character? Like if she aborted the stab at the last minute because she noticed the guy was wearing a baby harness or something. Maybe. It might come across as hypocritical, considering all the orphans she's already created by this point in the game. Or just don't have the guy in a vulnerable position in the first place because he's too smart. I don't know, there's probably a lot of options. And ultimately, I guess the final point to take away from this video is be less shit at writing games. You hear that, industry? You know all that shit writing you do? Well, do less of it. You're welcome. Please subscribe to the channel for more searing insights.
This video is brought to you by PlayTracker, the app that tracks your cross-platform game library, achievements, stats, and more. PlayTracker works by connecting to various gaming platforms and combining all your data in one place. It offers a unified cross-platform social experience, advanced game library labeling and sorting, fun challenges and progression system, and stats about games and the types of players who enjoy them. PlayTracker is for all kinds of gamers, like this one.
My top tags across all platforms are dating sim and psychological horror. I'm sure that says nothing about me as a person.
And this one.
My mate Captain Toe Jam 96 and I have a lot of games in common. We should tackle some challenges together.
And even me! I'm better than all of you. Unite your gaming multiverse with PlayTracker today and join the official Second Wind Guild to unlock exclusive profile decorations by playing games recommended by us, a group of ostensibly professional gamers with allegedly great taste in games. Ooh.